Hey guys, Zane from the Infinite Jukebox here with another album review, and today I wanted to talk about the new Polyphia album, Remember That You Will Die. Remember That You Will Die is the latest studio album from the much hyped up math rocker group Polyphia, a band that have been basically the face of math rock for the past few years. And not only that, but also the face of instrumental music in general. I mean, it's rare that a band that is primarily based around instrumentals, mainly structured around their own compositions rather than any vocal work, becomes as successful as Polyphia has. But here they are, one of the most popular rock bands on the planet, and continuing to do so for multiple years in a row. They deserve all of the respect and admiration in the world for taking a particular sound that's not mainstream and making it mainstream, taking a style of music, in this case mostly instrumental music, and making it popular and relevant within mainstream pop culture. But at the same time, they just are truly one of the most soulless popular bands out there, which is somehow shocking because really this just shouldn't be as dull and lifeless as it actually is. Like I said, Remember That You Will Die ultimately faces a lot of the same problems that previous Polyphia albums have faced, and that is, of course, the fact that this is just a record that feels so plastic and uninteresting and lacking in emotion. This album feels dead. This is basically the musical equivalent of a Whole Foods or some other supermarket chain that's primarily for the upper middle class and beyond, in that, sure, there's a lot of great products here, it's incredibly clean, it's top of the line for sure, but at the same time, it's just so squeaky clean that it becomes unremarkable, and ultimately it just loses any and all soul. And I would rather go to a store that just has store brand stuff that's way cheaper, but with more care and passion and love being actually put into it. My point is, Remember That You Will Die, it's incredibly impressive, don't get me wrong, but technical prowess does you absolutely nothing, I mean truly nothing, when there's no emotion, there's no heart being put into it. And Polyphia as a band, despite the fact that they can shred like nobody's business, they can change time signatures better than the best of the best prog bands ever could, really just lack any care for what they're doing. They know that they're talented, and that's fine, but they just show off their talents and their noodling abilities without actually doing anything of substance that becomes memorable. Generally, on paper at least, it seems like the only thing that could save Polyphia from being just truly a failure of a band would be getting some guest vocalists in there to provide some vocal work, maybe add a bit more passion and heart into the project. But unfortunately, Remember That You Will Die does do that, but does it incredibly poorly. Every single artist that appears here really just has nothing else to actually add to the song. They feel just as uncaring, dull, and lifeless with their delivery and their vocal work than any of the other members of Polyphia do in their own respective performances, and it just continues this cycle of not doing anything remarkable with immense amounts of talent. And I just truly don't understand how that You Remember That You Will Die manages to be so unremarkably uninteresting with its incredibly talented musicians, its incredibly talented guest vocalists. It's just genuinely baffling. And look, I'm not trying to make this review some sort of hateful call-out post to Polyphia. I'm really not. I'm not trying to make this Polyphia hate or anything like that, because they are insanely talented musicians. I mean, just incredible, generally speaking. Guitarist and the primary leader of the band, Tim Henson, is especially impressive throughout the entirety of this record. That man can shred and use different techniques that you've probably never even heard of, techniques that I can't even pinpoint in terms of what they're actually called. He's an insanely talented dude and will most likely go down rightfully as one of the greatest guitarists of the century thus far. However, at the same time, he kind of uses his powers for evil here. I mean, sure, you've got all of this technical prowess and amazing ability, but he and his bandmates choose to do nothing interesting, nothing unpredictable, and the way that they manage to shift through time signatures, they manage to shift through different strange song progressions, sure, is trying to be unpredictable in and of itself, but because it's trying to be unpredictable, it's predictable because of that. This is just Polyphia being Polyphia, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it was only an interesting gimmick the first time around. I mean, really, since then, it's just been an imitation of themselves, even. It's just an unintriguing record from a band that become less and less interesting to hear from with each passing release. And sure, they've done some great work in the past, there's no denying that, but for this album in particular, it's just nothing worth noting. If you are, again, a die-hard math rock fan or you're really into Polyphia, then sure, check this one out. You'll probably adore this, you'll probably vomit in excitement over how much you love this, and I can respect that. But as for me, Polyphia are just one of those bands that felt like they had a gimmick of being this insanely technical band that made bands like Tool and King Crimson look like the Ramones in comparison, and now they're just a parody of themselves almost. So overall, Remember That You Will Die is not a horrible album, it's not totally trash and irredeemable, but at the same time, it's far from a good album, and it's just a lot of repetition of things that Polyphia have been doing for some time now, with no real progression beyond them being capable of doing a lot, and a lot ends up adding to not a lot. I'm going to give this record 2 stars out of 5. And with that being said, that's the end of this review. I've been Zane from the Infinite Jukebox. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.